Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today we're going to look at Theta-Fuel and see where it takes us. So I think that Theta-Fuel is actually doing something similar to that over here. We are currently dangling on support right now, and basically we have been discussing Theta-Fuel as a potential running flat, but the pattern got way too basically it got too complex. So basically I was saying this is an A, right? We come up for B, right? Because we have three waves, 1, 2, 3, and then we come all the way back down into this wave here. So to me that kind of looked like a running flat. So I said, okay, it looks pretty good. Mind you, you can't see what's going on here. This is all we're seeing here. So as it's developing, we said, okay, it's looking, that looks to me like a wave 1 off of this running flat here. And then as it continued, I said, okay, now we got a 3-wave pullback. It's actually looking better. We have a wave 1, right? We have a running flat with a wave 1 and a 3-wave pullback. So far, so good. And it continued to go. And then we said, okay, we're testing the bull market support band, but the wave is getting a little bit too extended. So it's probably, this has probably got to go. And then as it continued, now we're sitting right here. So, you know, what the heck is this thing, right? So now the new idea is to say, well, if that was a running flat, what if it wasn't finished with that B wave? And what we have here is now an expanded flat. So we have, this is still our A wave, right? And instead of this being our B wave and this is our C wave, what I'm going to do is I'm going to simply put the B wave right there. So now it's actually much more, way better looking than it was before, because this was pretty tight wave structure in here. I mean, it was very tight to be a running flat, but now since the price has, you know, expanded, right, no pun intended, but the price action has gotten more mature, so now it's looking more like this right here. So we have our A wave, and then we come up in this complex B wave, right? We come up in this complex B, 1, 2, 3, 3 waves in B, and then we have an ABC here, an ABC here, and then potentially another ABC here. So this could come up in 3 and then one more flush to the downside, or it could be finished now. If it's going to be a regular flat, we're sitting here right on support, right? Let me put this line right here. We actually had somewhat of a liquidity grab here. So if you see, let me just put this line right here. You can see the price actually continued to bleed, right? It wasn't fun. These are daily candles, so each candle in here is a day, right? So that's a lot of days going down, 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 down. So eventually that gets exhausted. It gets exhausted and it says, no more down, I'm going up. But notice how as we were continuing to go down, we basically hit this support here, and it wasn't really that strong of support because we only had a little bit of, if I shift this over here, we have a little bit of area there, here, and just a wick there. Actually, this would have been probably a little bit more likely, this area here, but the low is being threatened, right? I mean, we broke below it and then we came right back up. So either that is some kind of fourth wave, right? We're going to come back up and then finish wave 5, or this was the low and basically we closed below this low and we basically had a liquidity grab. Remember, people stop loss. If this is the low, this is the low, this is the low, and this whole thing is the range, right? This whole thing is the range, and the bottom of the range is most people's stop loss, right? That's when most people say, I can't take it anymore, I'm out. So market makers like to target those areas because they know people, that's an area of interest for most retail. And most people will get down in here, right? And they'll say, okay, we're on support, I'm going to buy. But then bam, it breaks right below it with an engulfing daily candle. And then the second candle came up and rejected it, right? So that's like people's signal like, hey, I'm getting out, right? I can't take it anymore. So all that liquidity rushes in to the market, and market makers, they like to take advantage of that and absorb some of that supply. So we'll see if that's sufficient enough. It doesn't really have kind of the ending I would like to see. I would have liked to see a better wick. Like you can see over here, see how this candle came down and it had a pretty long wick on the bottom, or even this one here had a couple dojis in here. It sort of rejected. This one did too, but I just wish it was a little bit better. Maybe if I go up to the 3-day, 3 days about the same. But what's interesting about the 3-day is we have no closes down here, and that's why I was saying most likely this was probably our support up here, right? So that's kind of how I'm gonna play it now. So now this is our new support line, and you can see we slammed right below it, and we'll see if we can get back towards this line here, the support line. But if I put this line right here at the very low, you could see we actually held it. So this is what I call, when you have support here, right? When you look left, there's no support on the bottom, but there's support here. This is kind of like this zone in here is kind of like an unknown situation, right? Kind of like no man's land, right? Basically a lot of uncertainty in this area. But what I really wanted to show you guys is how this is shaping up to look like something like this. Let me show you what I mean here. But before I show you that, because that's pretty important, I want to show you Theta. So Theta right now is on an 8. This is actually pretty good. In 4 hours, guys, in 4 hours, by the time you're watching this video, probably, we're going to get a 9, right? So I've been talking about that for a while. The last time we had a 9 on the 3-day chart, called the exact, well, pretty much the exact top here. Maybe a little bit off, but it was actually pretty close. So, you know, I'm looking forward to seeing how this 9 shapes up. And it's really organic, right? I mean, it's candle after candle after candle. It's no crazy ups and downs and flipping the counts. It's actually nice and orderly fashion down to an 8, right? So we'll see if we can get that perfected 9. I would have liked to see this 8 candle actually be where the 7 is. I would have actually liked to count it right here, have been the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and this be the 8, and then the 9 finally absorbing some of that shock that the wick produced down in here. So, you know, there's definitely like a shock appeal when price continues to go down, and it becomes so exhausted that it hits a support, and then it kind of like stuns it like a stun gun, like it's like frozen. So it basically springs back, and now you're kind of leveling off. So yeah, we'll see how this 9 shapes up to be. So something right here, maybe a base here with our 7, 8, 9. That's a good sign for the overall bottoming process. It doesn't mean that the total complete bottom is in. That just tells you, hey, we're getting close here to the vicinity of the bottom. Just like here, you could see we had a 9, right? But it wasn't the exact top. We actually had this 2 candle here be a little bit higher. But you can see it printed these red dots right here, which was very strong resistance. and you can see, you know, the 9, it printed the red dot, and these candles here could not get the job done in breaking those red dots. So these red dots became your setup resistance line. And you know, again, it took a couple candles to finally hash out a bottom. So given that this is a 3-day chart, it could take, you know, up to 3, 6, 9 days, another 9 days at hashing out a bottom here. But just know that it's probably getting close. I mean, you could see over here we had a 9 sell. This was a very nice 9 sell here. We came all the way up. Again, orderly fashion, just like what we're seeing now. Orderly fashion is going up nice and organic, nice and organic. Boom. We had an 8. This was the topping tail here on this 8. The 9 printed the red dot, and that became your resistance. Once this candle here broke that resistance, we came above it, and then it held it as support. Problem is, this was actually a flat pattern, so as we broke to the upside, it was actually a 1, 2, 3 wave move, and then we came back down and leveled off. But here's the cool part. The red dots never went away. You can see right here, here's the 9 sell, here's the red dots, and since we couldn't get, you know, going here, that's kind of how you knew it was a flat, because of this 3-wave pattern. And then also when we came back below this 9 here, see this candle, see, a lot of people, that's why trading is very interesting, and charts are so, like, you know, what do they call it, the 8th wonder of the world, or 10th wonder of the world, or something. It makes you wonder. It's like it's so just absolutely interesting how these charts work, and that's why I can't get enough. So but anyway, you could see this candle right here, this red candle right here, actually was significant going all the way back over here. So the candle back here in November was still acting as resistance all the way here in February. So you know, the price, you know, went below these red dots, and then it finally broke above again. But this time it was you know, we had a green 2 going above a green 1, going above the red dots. You can see we had an 8 candle right here, so we almost made it to a 9, right? Same thing. It's kind of the same thing as what's happening now, right? We had, you can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 right here, but we couldn't get to the 9, right? So you can see this 7 candle was actually the sort of that finishing candle. Then we had the green 8, but then we had a 1 going above the 8, which means we didn't get the 9. But that's okay, because we can still, you know, we still consolidated. We were building a base in here. So anytime you see a 9 under some red dots building a base, especially on the bull market support band, that's very bullish. So if you look at where we are now, you can see the same kind of thing here. So take a mental screenshot of this, look at the 7, and then look at the 8. The 7 is the big candle to the downside, the 8 is starting to flip green. That's the same thing that happened over here. The 7 was the big candle, and then the 8, you know, flipped green. But what we really want, what would be more ideal, is for the 7 candle to be the actual 8, and the 8 candle to be the 9. So that's the thing on the higher time frames. It takes a while to flip the count, because you can see this 5 candle is actually the reason why it got screwed up, because you can see here we were going up 1, 2, 3, and then 4, and then 5. It should have flipped the count there, but you see this wick right here, it actually was a liquidity grab. So that liquidity grab kind of screwed up the whole sequential system. But if you're good enough, you can kind of go back and diagnose the problem here, and you can see this was actually supposed to be the 1. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and the 8 right here was supposed to be the 9. So this was, in my opinion, I'm looking at this as a 9, right? And if you have no idea what the heck I'm talking about, just go to Google, type in TD sequential. Tom DeMark, that's what it stands for, TD. Tom DeMark created this indicator a long time ago, and it's stood the test of time. I don't use it by itself. I use it with Elliott wave and TD sequential, in my opinion, using divergences, using the bull market support band, using basically all the ammunition and your arsenal to figure out the wave structure. Sequential goes a long way. But yeah, just wanted to point out it's looking exactly like this wave here, and you can see, as this is going down, right? Let's see which one. So actually, yeah, you could see this number 4 candle here had a wick that went above this candle here. So in actuality, I would say maybe that could have been the 1, and now we're on a 9 here. So, but you know what? Any way you slice it and dice it, this is a lot of red candles. I mean, look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We have 9 red candles in a row, except for this little guy right here. But I consider that totally getting exhausted to the downside. Now, sometimes when you have a lot of little candles, small candle, then they get bigger and bigger. Sometimes you can have a real big one finishing the wave here. But you can see these green dots down here. These green dots are similar to the red dots. They're actually our setup trend line, right? Our setup support line. And this is our setup resistance line. It's setting up for that potential hit, right? So, and these green dots, I didn't put them there. They're just there based off what? Based off this 9 here. So as soon as that 9 printed that red dot, these green dots were basically where the indicator said, okay, this is where they should be. I don't know how the math goes into that of how far they should be displaced, but that's kind of what it is. Kind of like over here, this 9 right here, and you have the green dots here. So same thing here. This was actually a good one here. You can see we had a 9 buy, we came down, we had finally a green 1 breaking above the red dots, and then we came all the way up to a 9 sell. But notice, right, the price didn't quickly sell off all of a sudden. It kind of went sideways a little bit, and then it took the high, and then you almost had another 9 here, and then the price started coming down. But essentially you could see these green dots here, right here, and they actually sometimes they work out, sometimes they don't, but they're just there as guidelines. So anyways, yeah, I just wanted to point out Theta. I'm going to jump back to Theta-Fuel, but I just wanted to point out this wave here, how it's nice going down in an orderly fashion, right? Nice and organic. That's kind of what we're seeing here, just at a little bit faster, accelerated, a bigger rate. So what we're going to want to see when you have a big move like this is we're going to want to see these candles here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a visual representation. This is not financial advice. This is just me showing you what it could potentially look like based off the fact that we are almost on a 9. So I'm actually going to pull it from where the 7 is right here, and then I'm going to go across. And there we go, something like that. Now I'm not saying that's going to happen. I basically, there we go. So nobody gets any wrong ideas, because that's still up for debate if it's going to do something like that. We still have a lot of work to do here. But what we want to see now is for a base to get formed in here, right? We have an 8, so let's get a 9, and let's kind of consolidate here and let the red dots form. So hopefully we get the 9. If we have if the next 3-day candle is trading above the 8, then it could potentially flip the count, and then we're not going to get those red dots, right? So we're not going to have a clean setup, but it's still going to be, you know, it's still going to be ideal. So yeah, we have this 8 here. We could come back down and get another 9, or get that 9 and then start to go sideways. So let me zoom in and let's see what we can see here. So we actually had a 9 buy on the daily chart, but I don't like the 9 buy, because notice how it's going up and then it's bouncing into a 9 buy, right? So the count isn't really all that favorable, because it's not a perfected 9, right? So you can see the 6 was actually the bottom, and then it kind of bounced up into the 9, and now the count flipped. So anyways, that's kind of the small time frame. Or actually, let's jump into the small time frame now. That was the daily chart, and the daily chart we were talking the other day. Let's actually look even closer than that. Look at this. Look at we're on a 9 sell. Look at this. This is why we had a 9 buy here, right? We came up, we broke above the red dots, and we had a 9 sell, which printed these red dots. There was a 9 sell, so we pulled back, we've messed around. So a 9 sell can either mean a reversal or a pullback, right? So this was a pullback. We came back, we broke above the red dots. You can see when we break above the red dots, every time we break above the red dots, it's actually a big push to the upside. That's why I like them. You know, I like using them from time to time. You can see this 9 called the top here. This 9 also called the top, right? So if you want this indicator, the indicator that I have is the TD sequential, but you can't search for it anymore. I'm not sure why. Maybe it's trademark infringed. Maybe I was grandfathered in. I'm not sure how that works. But if you want something similar, basically it's the exact same thing plus more. It's actually this one right here. It's called Trend Reversal Predictor. So I'll click on it, and then let me get rid of mine, and this is kind of what it looks like. It's basically the same thing. It just looks a little different. It looks a little different. You can see we also have the 13s in here. So what I'm going to do is, you can see right here, TRP, trend. So if you go to your indicators section, type in Trend Reversal Predictor, and what you're going to want to do is you want to clean it up a little bit. So what I would do is, you know, take off a lot of the 13s and things that you don't need, and just make it as simple as possible. I'm not going to do that here on this video, but yeah, you just kind of go in here in the inputs, and you know, kind of play around with it and see what you get here. So it looks like it's in a different language. Someone who created it. Show risk stop, show sell count, so buy counts. Yeah, you're just gonna have to play with it and figure it out. But obviously we have, I don't really use this one. I don't really like the look of it too much, but it works. It works, and if I didn't have a sequential, I would definitely use it. So we can see we have a 9 here, and I don't like how the 9 is. It's kind of light green. I wish it was actually red. So you're gonna have to make the red 9s, or the sell, actually a red 9, and then the 9 buys have to actually be green. So that'll be a different day. Let me go back to mine here. So yeah, we actually have again 2 9 cells called the top perfectly. Now we have another 9 cell. So you know, this could be a shorting opportunity. Maybe we don't, you know, we'll see. We'll see how that plays out. But essentially, let's jump into the price structure here. We have this kind of, really this move up, right? And then we kind of have this pullback, and now we're kind of going into a retracement. So again, we're in between point A and point B here, right? We're right smack in the middle of the retracement levels, and we're on a 9 sell. So either this is going to come on down and go into reaccumulation like this and then break out. But I'm not too sure of that, considering we had a lot of price area in here already. So we might not need to do that. Another thing we can do is, simply get a pullback, maybe back test some of these prices in here and then continue higher, right? So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then maybe some kind of ABC flat structure. In order to qualify for a flat, the B wave, I believe, has to go up 90% of the A wave, and I don't think it's quite there. Let's see. I'm just gonna pull the fibs where the red dot is. So yeah, we almost hit that 90% area. So yeah, it could go into reaccumulation. So that's that idea. The other idea is to say that this is an A, this is a B, and now we're going to come down and get wave C here, and maybe back test this area right here, right at about $1.41, right? So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C. The problem is the ABC looks pretty big. But instead of trying to guess what it's going to be, analyze what it's trying to be, it's most likely going to start building a base in here. So basically, oscillations are always hard to know, like how the price is going to oscillate inside of a range. Usually it goes up and down, right? Hashing out a bottom. So a few of the ideas can be that this is some kind of wave 4, and now this is a wave 1, this is a wave 2, we're going to get wave 3, wave 4, and then wave 5, and then we're going to actually take out this low. And this is one of the things we also talked about as well, and essentially making one more high or one more low here and creating that bullish divergence. If we go to maybe the 4-hour chart, you can see the 4-hour actually got into oversold territory. That's good, that's what we want. And then we could see it bounce right back up to the 50 line, right in the middle here. So now it's going to determine, okay, if it comes back down and makes another low, this is going to be the trick. This is going to be the key right here. When the RSI comes back down, we want it to make a higher low. So we have a low here, right? And the RSI comes down, it makes a higher low. But the price made a lower low. That's what you want. You can say, well, that's bad. We don't want the price to go lower. Well, in order to get a good setup, a good entry for a trade, or even, dollar cost averaging, right? Let's say you've already dollar cost averaged and you basically spent your monthly allowance and you basically only have maybe $100 or $200 left, and you want to make it a damn good buy, then you want to kind of hope that it does break the low and that you do get the bullish divergence. So we're going down and this is going up, and that's kind of what you want to see in the event that we get that final wave. And if we do get that final wave, right, I'm wondering how big the scale will be, considering we've already went down pretty significantly. Now again, this could be a bottom here, right? This could be a bottom. But the only reason I say it might not be is because this final wave here, we can see right here, is 1, 2, 3. This could be 4, and then we still need 5. So some kind of diagonal to end wave, that final wave here. So we would have 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then 5, or 5 here, and then A, B, C for wave 4, and then this whole thing is maybe wave 5. So it is likely we could have another low. Just be aware of that. But if we do have another low and we do have bullish divergence, it's actually going to be a good thing. Now, how can we get a fifth wave? Is it going to be clear, cut, and dry, and just we go down? Maybe, maybe not. So another way this can happen is if this wave here gets too big. It's already pretty big for its size, right? So if we actually come down here and then do another 3-wave up, then the whole thing's going to be a bigger A, B, C, and then it might start looking like it's going to be a little bit too big for that subwave. So if we do get 3 waves up and it looks corrective, then I'm going to expect probably 3 back down, right? And then maybe 3 back up, maybe 3 back down. Or, right, this could be the beginning of a Wyckoff. We come up, right, come back down, come back up again, and then maybe this could be where we get that flush of the low, where we come down, we take out the low, and then we quickly come back up, we hold it as support, we climb back up here, we play around and then continue higher. That is like a really perfect Wyckoff pattern. So it's still it's still very early to be speculating here. But I kind of always like to jump the gun a little bit just to kind of, explore, right? We're exploring ideas. That's why my videos might take a little longer, maybe a lot longer, because I kind of go into more things and explore things and kind of just, hash it out and see, what jives and what doesn't. So yeah, I think if I had to choose which it would be, I would like to see some kind of Wyckoff pattern in here, or some kind of inverse head and shoulders, or something that says, yeah, this is a good bottom here. Because the way I've drawn it, it actually is a little bit big. I don't want it to be too big, because if you spend too much time down here, then people get used to these cheap prices, and then when it spikes up, then they short it, right? So let's talk about another idea here. So basically, here's our very strong area right at about $1.90. We take this off here. So if we start to see, right, this is why I kind of jumped the gun, so I can kind of prepare us for what, if you start to see it, then we kind of know what's going on here. If we start to see this start to continue to pump like this, right, and just get back up here, then it's probably going to get rejected. It's most likely going to get rejected because it didn't have a base down here to sort of coil that spring to then break us above that area, right? So if we get up here, that could be a bigger wave 4, right? And then we come down and finish that wave 5. So that would be another way that could happen. And what that would be is simply kind of a more complex or a bigger count, which basically would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we come down and get 5, and then we create that bullish divergence. But this wave down has to be very fast, otherwise we might not get that bullish divergence. So that could be something like that if we start going up. So we actually don't really want the price to go up. We kind of want the price to kind of go sideways a bit, because if it starts going up fast, then we will probably get rejected and make one more low. So that's one way you can look at it. Now the other way is, if this comes up right here and we make our way back up, we get rejected, but then we just come back in 3 waves. If we have a 3-wave pullback, right? So if we get up here in 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then we have a 3-wave pullback, then we kind of, maybe build a little bit of a base here. We're going to have a good chance at probably breaking above here. So, there's a few different ways this can happen. But all in all, we're just going to need a little bit more time here and see how it goes. I don't really do Saturday videos much, but I figured, you know what, let's just do one. Can never get enough of too much theta. So let's look here at the small time frame. So yeah, it actually kind of looks potentially like a little inverse head and shoulders here. Now we do have an inverse head and shoulders on Bitcoin on the larger time frame. However, inverse head and shoulders are better going down than up. For example, if the price is going down like this, and then it creates the shoulder, the head, and then the shoulder, right? You have the inverse head and shoulders here. There's your neckline. You break out. It's pretty good. But if you're going up like this, and then you create the shoulder, the head, and then the shoulder, so you have it also an inverse head and shoulders, but it's coming from an uptrend. Which one's easier to break out of? This one, right? Because you're getting exhausted and you're hashing out a bottom. This is also an inverse head and shoulders, and yes, you can break to the upside, but if it does, it's usually a finishing move and a good shorting opportunity, or it just will come up and it'll fail and it'll come down because it already went up, right? So we want inverse head and shoulders to be coming from the bottom of the wave, not the top. And that's one of the things with Bitcoin, right? When I go to Bitcoin here, everybody's talking about it, even myself, we're talking about the inverse head and shoulders. You can kind of see what's going on here, right? We have a shoulder, we have a head, and maybe we have another potential shoulder. So if we start curling up here, right, and we break out of here, it could be that's all we get, right? And then when we go back to that fractal, basically this fractal here, you can kind of see where we let me pause it there. You can kind of see, this wave. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but we do have a new fractal we can kind of use some guidelines on. There's these fractals as well, but it's still, I don't like them as much because it's still too early to tell if that's what it's going to be. I mean, if we get something like that, then we're pretty much going in, for sure going into reaccumulation, or we're going to be finishing up that C leg. But essentially, here's the two inverse head and shoulders side by side, and then here's the inverse head and shoulders after the fact. So if we do have a big pop to the upside, right, like this, then it could be the ending of the wave. So if it's the ending of the wave, then that means we have one more wave. Then that means that this could be 1, 2, and this was a lousy, crappy wave 3, and then we get a wave 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, something like that, or a wave 5. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's all you get, right? Because you kind of want a big 5-wave move, but if you get a small 5-wave move like this, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then that's technically a 5-wave move. So that's technically 5 waves. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, wave 1, A, B, C, wave 2, and then the third wave is monster, right? Usually that's the case. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and there's wave 3. Now you're in wave 4. So the question is, now you need wave 5. So you need 5 more waves in wave 5. So you have, is that all we're going to get here? Let me zoom in. 1, 2, 3, A, B, C, 4, and then you get up for 5. So a lousy, crappy wave like this that takes out the top, you have that finishing wave, and then bam, you get rejected fast. If we get something like that, then that's really bad. I mean, that's not. I mean, it's not bad. It's just it is what it is. I mean, that's the end. That's because that would be, you know, technically 5 waves here. So then you would have, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4, and this would be 5, and that would be the end of the whole thing, right? So what we want to happen is for this to actually be an you know, somewhat of an extended 5th wave here. So if this turns out to be hopefully, you know, if this is a 5 wave move, 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we get 5, that's just wave 1 of the 5. So that's wave 1. We come up here, and then we get wave 2, then wave 3, then wave 4, then wave 5, a bigger wave, right? Because we want this wave to kind of last. We need it to last some time, because we want the altcoins to have enough time for them to have, you know, the best alt season that they can. Not to say that's going to even happen in the first place, right? So another idea that this could potentially be here is we're still in the 3rd wave, and that would be ultimately very bullish. So this would be 1, 2, and then this whole thing would be wave 3. This would be wave 4, and then we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that would finish wave 3, right? Something like that. And then we would start the mega process of something like this right here. See how big this wave was? Let me just put that right there. There we go. Just as a visual representation, so we kind of see something like that. It probably wouldn't look like that, but I'm just saying that's kind of what we would expect here if the 3rd wave isn't finished. And that would be nice, right? That means we still have another 5 waves. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, B, C, and then we have 1, 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's wave 3. This is wave 4 of 3. And then this is wave 5 of 3. So 1, 2, all of that's 3, 4, and then 5. So that's the finish of wave 3. And then you have an A, B, C for wave 4. You know, something that lasts a long time, something that takes a long time, because that's another thing too, is look how long this thing took compared to how short this took, right? They should be equal in size, or at least somewhat equal in size. So if they're not, and we have another pop to the upside, it could be that the 3rd wave wasn't finished, and now we spent all that time only to just have, you know, the beginning of a bigger correction, right? And then after that you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then have that final 5th wave. So there's still a lot of variables, there's still a lot of things that could happen, there's still a lot of uncertainty. You know, this could be, again, this could be all we get here, and this could be an A, a B, and now we're starting to come down for wave C. If we do get something like that, then I'm thinking, okay, that would actually be better than us coming up like this and taking the top out. Why? Because if we come up and take the top out, it's going to look very 3-wave-ish, and that might be the beginnings of a bigger reaccumulation, right? You know what I mean? So we would have a rise, crash, retrace, we go down for reaccumulation, we go sideways, then we break out. So we could be barely entering in, coming down here into reaccumulation. So we just had one big retrace. The same thing that happened over here, right? We have a rise, crash, retrace. We go down into reaccumulation, then we go sideways, and then we break out. So is that what's happening here? Well, it wouldn't appear so because you actually took the top out. But I think most retail is looking like, okay, we broke the top, we're at all-time highs, right? Even myself, we're at, I mean, that's the fact. But you know, maybe they might paint that picture so that it kind of tricks you into thinking, yeah, we're going to go higher, because Bitcoin's and it's never in its life has ever done anything like this, where it went into a retracement, breaking the actual top. It did so right here, but that was the beginning of this wave here, not the beginning of an actual bull cycle. It was the end of a bull cycle, right? So we never, in reality, we never have a bull cycle yet until this actually, you know, goes into price discovery. Especially the altcoins are nowhere near a bull cycle. So if we do have this ABC coming back down, right? If we do have this ABC coming back down, then that's going to look more like a fourth wave. So we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC, and then we're going to have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ABC, and then that would allow us to have another 5 waves up. So 1, 2, 3, hopefully 4, and then 5, right? So then what you have is, right, wave 1, wave 2, obviously wave 3, come back down, right? This ABC, wave 4, basically coming back down and back testing maybe 50K, right? And then, right, obviously wave 5. So if we have this 3-wave shape here, a lot of people are going to be bearish. The alts might bleed even more heavily, but it's actually going to give us a nice shape to sort of spring us into that next 5th wave. But if we have a big impulse down, and then we have a 3-wave pullback, and then we start coming back down and breaking the low again, then it's going to start looking like, okay, this was only a retracement, right? So this whole thing was just a retracement of this bear market. So here's the bear market, here's the retracement. It's a full 100% retracement turning into a flat. So then we come back down between 30K and 50K, somewhere in this zone in here, basically oscillating in here, basically going into reaccumulation. Because think about the ETFs, right? Those guys have a lot of money, and those guys want good prices. So my question is, when did the ETF come out? The ETF came out, I believe it was over here, somewhere in here. So these big millionaire top dogs, right? They didn't get to buy Bitcoin way down in here like we did, right? Or you know, the altcoins. So they actually got in late. So maybe we have to come down. I'm just saying, if we're still on the retracement idea, if this is a retracement, then we still have to come down maybe to backtest 30K. And I was always, you can go back and watch the videos, I was always skeptical about this range, because it was a pretty nice range here, and we broke out, we never backtested it, right? So that was always a concern that I had. You know, when we got up here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I was thinking, hey, this could potentially come down and back test it here, but it never did. It continued to rip to the upside. So, which could be a problem later on, because now if you have to back test, you're having to back test from a much higher level, right? So, you know, if the big market maker guys who, you know, these big millionaires who have their ETFs and they want an ETF, right, cheap, right, then if this is a retracement, we come down into reaccumulation, that's probably where they're going to buy the big ETF, you know, the people who missed out, because again, the ETF didn't come out until Bitcoin was over 40K. So if we go down to 30K, it's going to be absolutely an all-time low for the ETFs. You know what I mean? So we'll see what happens. But essentially, we would come down in this range right here between, I would imagine, between here and here. It'd be a pretty big range. You know, it's definitely a lot of uncertainty of of how big it could be, but it would be something like that. And what I would do is I would actually match that up so you can kind of understand what I'm saying, is that would be the equivalent of something like that there. You see what I mean? But here's the problem. Over here we kind of had a rounded bottom, and over here we had a rounded bottom too, but we more so had a base in here. So I'm hoping that this base can have enough support, especially here. We had one base here, right? Actually, let me just draw it. We had a base here, and then we had another base on top of it, right? As opposed to this, we had a base, but then we just shot straight up, and then it kind of winged down. But this actually took its time. It went sideways, broke out, took its time, went sideways, building layers of support, right? It's like, you know, forging a knife, you know, 50-layer Damascus steel, forging that knife out, you know, having those beautiful layers in that knife. And and then we break out, right? We have these two support zones here. So if we did have to come back down into reaccumulation in this area, it would actually be pretty, I think it would hold up very, very well, considering we had this nice rounded bottom, considering this base here and this base here. So if we did have to come down, it is a little bit extended here, right? This from this base here, my chart's getting a little cluttered, but from this base here to this base here and this extension here, this extension is a little bit, obviously it's extended away. So we could come down, if this is a retracement, and kind of go into reaccumulation and then go and break out into that new all-time high. And what we could then have is something even more bullish, right? Either it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or it could be a 1, 2, and then we can have another massive 1, 2, which would break us out, which still means we need a 3, 4, and 5. But chances are, if this is a retracement, you're going to get that final wave to that upside. So then what you have is a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, sideways breakout. So there you go. A good example of that is XRP back in the day here. I mean, this is like a classic example. You have a rise, you have a crash, you have a retrace, you come all the way back down into reaccumulation, and then you go sideways. And look how massive that is compared to these waves in here, right? Which then led to this explosive move to the upside. And that's one of the reasons I really like XRP now, is because it's actually doing the exact same thing as it did back in the day. So, you know, we have the rise, the crash, the retrace, reaccumulation, sideways, blast off. Same thing here. We have a rise, crash, retrace, reaccumulation, and now we're going sideways. And then we also have the lawsuit, right? So XRP is kind of in a perfect situation where, you know, yes, it's been boring, yes, it's been brutal, yes, it's been torture, yes, it's been, you know, just hell, but you can't ignore what it's doing on the zoomed out time frames. And then also, you know, if we have this being reaccumulation and this being reaccumulation, then we should expect a blast off sometime soon, right? You would think. So that's why I'm saying maybe the lawsuit ending. I mean, the CEO of Ripple, Brad Garlinghouse, said sometime this summer it should be, you know, starting to be over with, right? Some kind of settlement. So we'll see how that plays out. Maybe they have to go to trial. Maybe there's no settlement. We don't know. But, you know, the chart is kind of painting a picture like there could be a potential settlement, something that ignites the fire that explodes. You can say, well, who cares about, you know, XRP or whatever, right? You know, but the thing is if that happens, you're going to see Theta blast off. You're going to see Theta-Fuel blast off. You're going to see ADA, Matic. I think you're going to see a big alt season. Why? Because if Ripple, this is the crypto trial of the century, guys. This is the crypto trial of the century. If Ripple wins, it's going to give so much confidence in Cardano and Matic and Solana and Ethereum, because hey, if XRP can do it, if that guy over there can do it, that banker coin guy over there can do it, then we can definitely beat the SEC, right? Because we can use the Ripple argument in case we ever get sued. So it's going to bring a lot of optimism, a lot of conviction in the direction of the market, right? Because again, Ripple succeeded in their lawsuit. That means they feel like they can succeed as well, because Ripple set the groundwork. They basically set a precedent for what's to come later on if there's any other lawsuits that come up, right? So that's going to make investors feel very good. Hey, they can do it, we can do it too, right? So they're going to be more boisterous, they're going to be more bullish, they're going to be more convincing. So yeah, we'll see how that plays out. But that's all I wanted to say there with XRP. Plus, XRP hasn't broken above its all-time high in like six, 7 years. So it's created a huge base, a huge, massive base, right? You're stepping up the stairs. You're stepping up the stairs. What do you think is going to happen? Right? Obviously, if we break this range to the downside, obviously. But it's coiling in a way where it's actually looking like a cup, and it kind of looks like a handle being formed in here. So similar to how this was a cup and this is a handle here. So, we could have another flush down to the low, right? That's always a possibility. Just like how it did over here. You can see here's your trend line, and here's the trend line here, or the support line. And you can see right here, we actually support. We broke through the line, we grabbed that liquidity, and then we shot up. So if you look over here, let me try to zoom in over here so we can see it. You can see potentially something similar here, right? So if we come down, and we already essentially did right here, so maybe that was all we get. But if we come down and grab that liquidity, that could be the recipe to get us up. So that we would have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, A, complex B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 1, A, B, C, 2, and then we go up for wave 3. But maybe we'd build more of a base down here, similar to what this did, right? You can see we're bouncing off support. We actually broke support, but that was actually the liquidity grab that sent this thing up. So my question is, are we going to get a liquidity grab? That would mean one more wave to the downside. So any way you slice it and dice it, we're pretty close. Let's get back to Theta-Fuel and we'll wrap this video up. By the way, hit that like button, because I'm probably going to go over the hour mark. We'll see. But anyway, we can see, right, I wanted to circle back to Theta-Fuel. Right now we got everything out of the way. You can kind of see this is actually similar to what's happening here, right? You can kind of see a very interesting fractal here. If I kind of play with it here, I kind of scale it. Obviously it's bigger, but I can kind of play with it here. So basically what you have is you have this run up. You have 3 drives to the high. So you have 1, 2, 3. Same thing here. You come up. You actually have 4. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So you have this sort of divergence up here where the price is going up, right? And then you can see right here, you come back down. Same thing here, you come back down. Then you shoot back up, and then you come back down and finish the wave. Come back down and finish the wave. So that, I mean, this structure here looks very similar to what's happening over here, which is pretty interesting. So there we go. I kind of color coded it so that we kind of see here what's going on. So I mean, yeah, basically we have this run up here, we have this kind of A, we have this complex B, and then we come down for C. this three-way move down. Same thing here. We come up, right? We have, because remember, originally I thought this was a running flat. We had A, we come up for B, and then a C, but it was too tight. So what was actually happening was actually, instead of this being a running flat and this being a 1-2 go, right? We let the pattern emerge, and we can see it was actually something more complex. So this was actually an A, and this whole thing, boom, 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 was the B wave. So we have a three-wave move in B, A, three-wave move in B, and then we have this move back down to the downside for wave C. And that's the same thing that kind of happened here, and move back down to the downside. So again, we should be finishing up here somehow, some way. Maybe we have a little bit more down, maybe one more low, but regardless, we want to see a base get built in here, just like the base got built down in here. So we'll play around in here, maybe break out, and then fly to the upside. I mean, it looks really good and symmetrical, so we'll see how that continues to play out. Anyways, guys, hope you guys enjoy your weekend. If you can, hit that like button. It really means a lot. And drop a comment. Let me know what you guys are thinking here. Are you buying the dip, or are you waiting for lower prices? And if there's any coins you want me to take a look at, you can go ahead and drop them in the comment section, and I will eventually get to your comment, and we'll talk about that on the rapid fire session. We'll whatever coin you want, I'll go ahead and take a look. So anyways, guys, I will catch you guys on the next one. Cheers.